It's been an incredibly warm October so far, and it looks to be yet another warm week ahead. So, we're going to break down the details for you in this update over the next 7 days, plus an extended view all the way into Halloween. So, let's take a look at the overall temperature anomalies for this afternoon. And man, it's really going to be warm across a good part of the Great Lakes and much of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast. I mean, look at this, folks. We're talking 84 degrees in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I don't need to tell you, folks, that is incredibly warm for this time of year and plenty warm down south. You do see a cooler pocket of air around the Four Corners regions. That was complements of an upper level low that has now shifted off into the plains. You can see this breakdown right here. That's going to be the setup that we could see some additional showers and thunderstorms, and actually some of those could turn on the severe side as we head into the afternoon. It's very subtle. This is just kind of a weak pocket aloft. That's going to be enough to overturn the atmosphere and should set the stage across areas of Nebraska, down into Kansas, far western portions of Oklahoma. Likely could see some severe storms later this afternoon, but well warm across a good part of the lower 48. The only cooler air in town is a little trough that will be likely coming in for those areas across the Pacific Northwest. We're talking far extreme areas of Washington and Oregon. But you can see the severe threat later on this afternoon. In fact, we actually even had some hail this morning just in and around the Lubbock region with a severe thunderstorm warning. I think those will become a little bit more numerous as we head into the afternoon, especially after the 4 o'clock time frame. So if you live within the, say, the Texas Panhandle, those areas across western Oklahoma, getting into central Kansas, especially, unfortunately, that does have a low-end tornado threat associated with these developing supercells, kind of isolated, but definitely supercells could be unfolding this afternoon with that weak pocket aloft up at the upper levels of the atmosphere. But overall, in the expanded view, as far as like precipitation for the next 24 hours, it's not really much, folks. I mean, all the instability, if it's anything, is just the extreme portions of the Pacific Northwest across those states of Washington and Oregon. This is typically where you see your rainier months or your wet seasons just starting now. And so that is definitely not unusual for them to start seeing some rain showers on a daily basis. But for much of the country, you're talking, this is the second wettest month in October, and it's just been dry. So yes, very unusual that we're seeing dry weeks after weeks after weeks that we've been seeing, and yet another week ahead. So if we look at the satellite picture, you can see what we're talking about. I mean, this is a high pressure that's been pretty dominant across a good part of the southeast, much of the eastern regions. This is what was Nadine, is back now out in the open waters of the Pacific. This actually has a 90% probability of reforming into a tropical entity and likely becomes possibly even a hurricane out there into the Pacific. There is Oscar that made landfall yesterday in and around the Cuba region. That's still spreading some showers and thunderstorms, but it's going to hit a brick wall because we do have a little stalled frontal boundary draped across this region, and we've got high pressure, so likely this is going to be shifting out into the open waters. The high pressure is going to keep it well away from the United States, and this cool front will keep it well away from Florida. So that's why it's basically taking a right turn. It will dramatically shift further north and then dramatically shift off to the northeast and be out into the open waters of the Atlantic over the next couple days. So, but overall, as we head into Wednesday, you can see what we're talking about, folks. This is more of a zonal flow pattern. This is your jet stream, right? So there's your jet stream. So anything south of there with the high pressure, that just complements a plenty of warm air, right? So there is a little bit of a cool pocket, even though you are going to be warm today across a good part of Minnesota, Wisconsin. A little bit of a cool shot with that dip of the jet stream. So if you're north of the boundary on Wednesday, you're going to feel some of that cooler, chillier air complements of the jet stream looking to dip just a little bit as we head into that Wednesday time frame. But further to the south, man, just the breakdown of the precipitation over the next, 2 days kind of looks like this. It's just really right along that jet stream, right? So if you're elongated within that jet stream, northern branches of Idaho, Montana, the Dakotas, back into Minnesota, up into southern Canada there's the upper level low that will bring some showers and thunderstorms, some turning severe into Nebraska, central Kansas, and just spits and spatters back into western Oklahoma. But other than that, really dry across a good part of New York, much of New England, much of Pennsylvania, good part of the southeast as well. Much of Texas remains on the dry side. And if you're south of that boundary on Wednesday, all those areas encircle, yeah, I mean, you're going to be record high temperatures, folks. I mean, so yeah, now this time of year, anytime you touch the 90s, yeah, we're talking record highs, because usually a normal high is closer to the 75 range, right? So yeah, plenty of warm conditions. We do see that small little buckle in the jet stream where we do try to cool off. So it's going to be a 30-degree drop in temperature, what you're actually seeing today, and then what you're going to be seeing on Wednesday for those areas into Wisconsin, into Minnesota there. Widespread 70s, 80s, approaching 80 in Ohio, back into Pennsylvania, further down south into the 80s, back into Kentucky, and into Tennessee. So definitely plenty warm, and it's been warm, folks. This is your overall outlook for the last 3 weeks in October, and this is your average mean temperature. So when you start seeing your average means approaching 7, 8, if not double digit above average for an overall sum of 3 weeks, that is definitely warm conditions. And even this week, if you combined all the days, it even looks warmer than what we have been the last 3 weeks. So there's definitely been a very unusual, warm, if not almost record October ahead, after we put all the pieces of the puzzle together. But there's as we head into the weekend, right, we've got that little cooler shot, a little bit of a dip in the jet stream. It's subtle, it's not a strong cold front by any stretch of the imagination, but it will ring out some sporadic showers along that feature. So those areas into Wisconsin, back into Indiana and Ohio, with very lighter amounts as you swing into Kentucky, western Tennessee, maybe Arkansas might get some sporadic showers, but nothing. And then by the time it reaches Texas, it's mostly kind of fizzles out. This would likely be what would become what was Nadine right here into the Western Caribbean that crossed over into the Pacific, will likely take a new name and become a formidable hurricane. So by the time we head into Saturday, it's going to be a formidable hurricane down here into the open waters of the Pacific, not really affecting anybody. We do have a strong system that's coming off the Aleutian Islands. That's going to continue to dive down into their northwestern regions and likely start to bring a secondary cooler shot of air for going into next week. So as we head into your Saturday time frame, you can see before that cool shot comes in, that jet stream buckles well up into Canada. Just this is extremely rare for this time of year to be so late in the month of October. I mean, this is fall, folks. I mean, you got meteorologically winter starting about 7 weeks on December the 1st. So you're talking very unusual, the jet stream to be so far north this time of year, but that's what we're looking at. And back, further south, that's just nothing but ridge of high pressure. I mean, look at that 594 high pressure there. Yeah, that's even unusual, even for those areas further south across the Southwest. So yes, just definitely very unusual air mass in the jet stream, and which kind of sums up like this for the next 7 days. A lot of red on the map, folks. Yeah, that just means well above average temperatures continue for the foreseeable future, especially across the central U.S. I mean, those anomalies approach 30 degrees above average. Very, very unusual to see such warmth across the good part of the lower 48. It's really not until next week we do see subtle signs of a trough going to be diving in to bring a relief for at least the more intense, say, record heat for October standards and return to somewhat normal conditions, right? You got to have a strong cold front just to drop you back down to normal, right? And so that just, you know, continues to dive in. That likely unfolds on Tuesday timeframe. And within the higher elevations, not anything at the surface, but more into the mountain regions, we're likely going to be seeing more snow showers across Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, you know, Utah, those areas into Colorado as well. And then that's all rain highlighted across the Dakotas, back into Minnesota, sneaking into Wisconsin there. That is that secondary cooler, I guess, cooler shot that's going to modify the temperatures back to at least closer to normal as it continues to dive south. But out ahead of it, this is the day before Halloween. You're going to be experiencing plenty of warmer air continuing to unfold. Yes, we have another deepening trough that will likely come back into the Four Corners regions. That's going to bring that little, you know, cooler shot, that, you know, closer to normal type air moving southbound. So by the time we head into Halloween, it looks plenty warm across a good part of New England, much of the Midwest, much of the Mid-Atlantic, a good part of the East. It's really that trough that comes in out west. So you guys are going to be experiencing cooler than average, what you would typically see it on a Halloween time frame. And then that cooler shot of air would be unfolding, moving across the country by Halloween. So by the time we get into Halloween, here's your overall percentages on precipitation, right? So this is your, say, 1/10 of an inch. This is to get even measurable precipitation to unfold across Halloween. And it really depends on how fast this, you know, this little cool shot will be moving across the plains and much of the east, right? So we'll have the cool shot come in. It looks like a good probability you're going to remain on the wet side across the Pacific Northwest, very light amounts across the middle part of the country. And then depending on that timing of the cool shot, there are going to be some showers and thunderstorms trailing behind, you know, through that cool front. But you're only looking at maybe a 40 to 50% probability that some of these areas are going to be on the wet side. We're not talking much precipitation. This is just 1/10 of precipitation or more for these regions, but no areas really have more than 50% probability besides the areas of the Pacific Northwest. So if you break it down over the next 7 days, here's your overall precipitation. Still really remains dry of much of the Carolinas and much of Florida. So that is definitely a good sign as they continue to clean up from those two massive hurricanes out there and recover from the devastating events that unfolded. And then a good part of Texas remains dry. Much of the Southwest is just the Pacific Northwest. And then, of course, that trough that will be coming in across the middle part of the week. That's likely today, going into tomorrow, as that'll swing through Iowa, back into Missouri, as well as into Illinois for your Tuesday coming up. So, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch me next update. Why I protect you before and after storm.